Hello everyone, Richard Tubb here. Welcome to TubbTalk Live. I'm Richard Tubb. I'm at home in the studio, garage of Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England. And this very special edition of TubbTalk, the podcast for IT consultants, is streaming live across YouTube, across LinkedIn, across Facebook and Twitter today with our very special guest, Ben Spector. Now, Ben is an ex-managed service provider owner turned project manager for Zomentum, where he uses his experience of running an MSP to shape the development roadmap of the Zomentum platform from an MSP's perspective. Now, if you've not come across Zomentum before, it's a sales acceleration platform built exclusively for managed service providers. The Zomentum platform combines pipeline management, proposal, quote builder, sales automation, and much more. More on that shortly. Think of it as an all-in-one sales solution for MSPs. So today, Ben is joining us to talk about his journey in the MSP world and to give you advice on how you can accelerate your MSP sales. Now, if you're joining us live, we would love to hear from you. So give us your feedback and questions to Ben in the comments. I'll make sure to pause regularly and ask Ben your questions. And if you're listening to this on the podcast or the replay, well, where were you when we were live? We're having a great time. You can follow me on social media at TubbBlog to make sure you don't miss any future TubbTalk Live episodes. I want to give a big shout out and a thanks to the team at Fresh Productions for supporting us in going live today. If you need help with your virtual or in-person MSP event, then Fresh are the people to go to. With that said, Ben, welcome to TubbTalk Live. Where are you joining us from today?
Thank you. Joining from very, 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 very hot Weybridge in Surrey. My partner and I have just moved flat. This is our new study. I had in mind a very academic-looking bookcase behind me, but before I could do that, he managed to order a Peloton bike, which is not quite the background I had in mind for these kind of calls.
Well, it shows you are a fit guy, keeping your healthy body and mind and everything. I've just got a load of books in the background here, so.
I haven't touched it once, other than helping him put it there. Believe me, I haven't touched it.
Let's jump in. For those in the industry who haven't had the pleasure to meet Ben Spector yet, and I would encourage you when we're going back on the road soon, hopefully getting out there, if you get a chance to meet Ben in person, you really should. But before joining Zomentum, you used to run an MSP business, right? Can you give us a potted history of your journey in the MSP business so far?
Sure. So, I started in IT entirely accidentally in about 2008. Kind of dropped out of university and wasn't really sure what to do. So, ended up doing bits of IT consulting. And there comes a point I think a lot of people watching will probably relate with, which is you go in to consult on a project, but then you can never really disconnect from that client. You forever end up fielding the support questions going forwards, even though it's not really part of the scope of what you went in to do. So naturally, that consulting pivoted towards managed services so that I could continue to deliver the support experience after doing the consultancy projects. And so I was doing that for the last 10, 12 years. We picked up Autotask in about 2014, QuoteWorks in about 2015, HubSpot in 2017. So, and then various other kind of peripheral tools along the way. And I think what really occurred to me was that what I enjoyed doing the most in my MSP actually wasn't the technical projects, and it certainly wasn't sales. If there's one thing I know a hell of a lot about, it's the pain of trying to sell IT services to small businesses. And actually, what I was really enjoying doing was focusing on the tooling and the processes within my MSP, just automating the hell out of everything. So I guess it was quite natural in a way that after leaving the MSP, doing the project delivery and stuff, that actually joining a vendor that's solving a very real problem. It was an obvious choice, really.
Yeah. So for people who are not familiar with Zomentum, how would you describe what they do?
Oh, good question. I mean, our CEO Shruti's trying to forge an entirely new category in the MSP space, which I think we've gone with sales acceleration as a name for that. Obviously, you've got your marketing tools, things like HubSpot and Infusionsoft that sit at the top of the funnel to the middle of the funnel and help you get from the point at which somebody first gets in touch with you, or maybe they subscribe to your blog, through to the point where you actually sales qualified them. Maybe you've identified the need and you've actually got a solid opportunity there. But what happens then? And the PSAs are great at picking up from the point at which you have a client that's ready to continue on that journey, and they're great at managing the ticketing and all your contracts and your billing and support and management. But there's this enormous gap between identifying the opportunity and, well, putting it bluntly, getting a contract signed. And so what Zomentum does is it really elegantly fills that entire space from the point at which prospects put their hand up and said, "Hey, I think I'm ready for a quote." And even if they're not sure what that quote is for yet, using Zomentum, you can take them through the assessments process. You can do that high level kind of, do you have multi-factor authentication enabled? Is there cloud backup? Just go through that high level assessment to broadly qualify the opportunity a bit better, but also to present the results to them in a really dynamic and engaging way. Then we can evolve that sales assessment into a quote if it's for a very straightforward need, or maybe a much longer form proposal if it's for a juicy managed service contract. And then once you've got them through the proposal stage, it helps you get that actually signed off. It's got an e-sign. And then it also helps to continuously re-engage the customer with the sales cycle on an ongoing basis. I think the term QBR, quarterly business review, some people now seem to, if you're a member of Tech Tribe, they're definitely going for the TBR, technology business review. All credit to you guys, because I think TBR is a better term for it. But it's something that comes with a certain level of maturity within your MSP. And I think a lot of the smaller MSPs are beginning to understand the value in that QBR process, and how it helps to do two things. It realigns the client with some kind of a roadmap, and it re-engages them with that sales process. And so Zomentum also helps you with that re-engagement cycle, getting them through the QBRs. We've got templates there to help structure them, to hold you accountable, but also to hold the client accountable and remind them that once in a while they might need to get their wallet out. IT isn't a one-hit wonder.
No. So to call Zomentum a quoting platform is probably not very fair at all, is it?
Don't you dare. Very rude. Yeah, it's so, it's so much more than a quoting platform. And I think one of the real difficulties we're having with communicating quite how much Zomentum does is because we've been unfairly put into this quoting platform box, because a lot of the platforms out there, like Tech Tribe and the communities, they don't have a box that's big enough to really label everything we do. I mean, Shruti's probably going to have my head later because she hates labels in general. But yeah, it's a sales acceleration platform, really. Quoting doesn't do it justice.
No, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on TubbTalk Live to talk about it, because I love technology that is disruptive to this industry. Disruptive in a positive way, I should say. Don't like chaos for the sake of it, but I really see Zomentum, we do like to label things, don't we? But it doesn't quite fit in that box. It's not just a quoting tool. It's much more than that, and it is a sales accelerator. So I want to talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But before we do, I'm fascinated to know, how did Ben Spector end up working at Zomentum?
I don't really know, to be honest. It was one of life's little mysteries, really. After I left my MSP in about October last year, I didn't really know what to do. So I took up an interim sort of technical director role at another MSP in London to help them just realign their service delivery and build out their processes, to make their business a bit more robust. But I think it wasn't particularly true to what I'd really enjoyed doing within my MSP, which was that focus on tooling and automation. And actually, anecdotally, the introduction to Zomentum came by way of being forced into a demo by my CEO at that company. We'd identified that we really needed some kind of quoting platform, and here I am assigning that label. We needed a quoting tool, and the CEO said, well, I said to him, look, we need a quoting tool. Quoting out of Autotask is really painful. I've had QuoteWorks for the last 5 or 6 years. I know what's possible, and this is such a regression to trying to do it out of Autotask's opportunities in quoting. Just everything was taking so long. And so I said, look, we need QuoteWorks. There's no two ways about it. It's not expensive. I know it inside out. I can implement it. We can have it up and running in a couple of weeks. Let's go with it. And he said, Ben, hold on a minute. Shouldn't we at least look at what else is on the market? And I was so firm and probably quite rude in my response. I said, there is absolutely no point looking at what else is on the market. QuoteWorks have been doing this for 25 years. I know it inside out. It's the market leader. We're going with it. And he sort of sat me down and he said, Ben, stop. Look, I've heard about this other platform, Zomentum. It's making a lot of noise in the industry. I've seen it on Tech Tribe. It's really getting raved about. Let's at least have a look at it. So I sort of huffed and said, okay, fine, let's have a demo and just see what it's about. And then we can implement QuoteWorks. So that was kind of January, February this year. And when I got on that demo with one of the sales reps at Zomentum, a guy called Sam, I was just absolutely blown away by what they were building, not just by where it is today, but by the vision that's there and the problem they're trying to solve. And, so to go really from this 6-year love affair with QuoteWorks in a matter of minutes to seeing something that really solved a problem, I think that really hit me where it hurts. And I thought, okay, this is really exciting. And so I reached out to Shruti, the CEO, I think just on LinkedIn, and said, hey, this is where I'm at. Let's have a chat. And fast forward 2 months, I'm sitting on the Zomentum side of the fence, adding whatever nuggets of gold I can to the roadmap to drive it forward from an MSP's perspective.
That's a brilliant story.
A very long answer to a very short question.
It's a great story to hear. Like, I can see we've got a number of raving fans of not only Zomentum, of yours, joining us in the live audience today. So I'll give shout outs to people. If you're using Zomentum, let us know in the chat, and we can certainly give you a shout out. Ask your questions of Ben as we go along here today. Now, because it's interesting, you talked about QuoteWorks, you've got the background in Autotask. You've got a lot of technical and business expertise across the board in a managed service provider. So I can see why Zomentum was so interested in bringing you on board. Give me an idea. What does a typical day look like for you at the moment as a Zomentum product manager working with UK MSPs? What sort of questions are you getting through?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is product manager is probably completely the wrong title. We were looking for a title so that I could at least join and, we could put an email signature together. But I probably only spend about, until Zomentum, I had no idea what a product manager did. And I suspect my approach to product management is very much coming up with slightly batshit crazy ideas, throwing them at the developers and say, can we do this? And getting a lot of pushback with Ben, that no, just no. and then trying to circumnavigate it, go up to the CTO and say, Rahil, look, I know it's mad and the engineers are saying no, but can we just do it? Because we've got a lot of MSPs asking for it. And so a lot of my time really at the moment is being spent just talking to the MSPs. Whenever I see anyone mentioning anything on one of the communities, one of the Facebook communities or Tech Tribe, if they look confused or lost with the Zomentum product, I'm quite happy, to jump in, set up a call with them and understand why they're lost. And if there's something that we can really do to fix that, not just for them, but obviously if they've got lost, probably other people are getting lost in the same way. So I think really I see myself as more of an evangelist for the MSP community within Zomentum than I do as a Zomentum employee. I'm sure my bosses would have another opinion of that, but I really quite wholeheartedly believe that my role at the moment is to push the MSP's agenda within Zomentum and make the platform as brilliant as we possibly can to solve that enormous sales problem for MSPs.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Now, I want to move forward and talk about sales a little bit. So, we've got a lot of MSPs watching us today, a lot of IT solution providers. They're interested in the tool, but you mentioned earlier about the challenges that you had with sales when you're an MSP. I'd like to say it mirrors my experience. I'm going to be upfront and honest here. I've said this before on this show. I got into this industry because I'm a techie geek. I love helping people. And then all of a sudden, I found myself owning a business, and a business needed sales. And I felt as though I had to persuade people, Ben, to buy what I was selling. I've since learned that's not quite the truth of the matter, but how would you describe your experience with managed service sales?
Do you know what, that I think that story resonates with me, and it will resonate with most people watching this. There's two types of MSP really. There are sales-led MSPs that haven't got a clue how to deliver, and there are engineering-led MSPs that haven't got a clue how to sell. And I think, to be really, really successful, the ones that are really successful manage to nail both. It's either because the engineering founder finds that best right-hand person to head up sales, or vice versa. But I think, interestingly, you can't teach a salesperson engineering overnight, because that whole problem solving skill set comes from deep within, without wanting to sound too metaphorical about it. But it's got to come from passion, really. But you can give engineers the tools that make it impossible not to sell. And so that I think is what's really interesting at the moment to me, is how do we find the best tools that make it impossible for an engineer not to sell?
Right.
I'm not sure that really answers your question, but there we go. That's me. I think I've learned a lot more about MSP sales since leaving my MSP, because you can look at things from that external perspective. When
Yes.
you're in it, you just assume what you're doing is the right thing, or you assume what you're doing is the wrong thing, but you have no idea how to fix it. And it's very difficult to take a step back and just look at your processes overall and think, what am I doing wrong? Well, probably because most engineer-led MSPs are too busy to even take a step back before they can even start thinking about it. So it's a real challenge. And I've had, over the last 6 months or so, I've had this amazing time to reflect. Stupidly, I was reading through some of the Tech Tribe materials the other day, and I hadn't been a member of Tech Tribe until very recently. And I think it would have totally changed the way I did business. Some of the templates, the materials, and the conversations going on in there have taught me a hell of a lot very, very quickly, about how to do things better, especially the processes, how to engage with your customers. So I think for me, the success in being able to sell effectively is understanding what problems your clients are trying to solve. And so many people say it, and it's only recently clicked with me, is that concept of selling value rather than selling the tools. You're not selling antivirus, you're selling security. Those kind of conversations. And looking back on it, pretty much every quote and proposal we sent out had these things itemized. We were setting ourselves up to be picked apart by the clients, say, wanting to shave, oh, well, if we take this backup off, that will save £4 per user per month. And maybe we don't need this advanced email security. That's another £2 a month. And as soon as you present something in that way, you're just selling something that's so overly commoditized. And I knew what I should have been doing, which was packaging up a solution and selling the value, but I still didn't do it. And we had the conversation over and over again with my sales director, and with him always saying that, we need to package this up better. And we kept trying to package things up, but ultimately we kept falling back on these stupid line items and having our quotes and proposals picked apart by vultures. I mean, totally drift off onto an anecdote. Partner and I, we just moved into a new flat and we're looking for curtains. And so we got two suppliers in to talk to us about curtains, and they both had a very different approach to it. One of them was asking me questions whether I wanted like lined or interlined or blackout lining, or did I want white or ivory lining? I'm like, sorry, white or ivory? Would someone like to explain to me, what is the difference between white and ivory? First of all, I'm partly colorblind, but second of all, I just don't care. What I wanted. The other curtain supplier, on the other hand, sort of came in and basically said, this is the kind of color you want to go with the walls. They're going to look fabulous, open or closed, and they're going to keep the light out, and it's going to make the room cozier, and this is how much it costs. And totally different industries, but map that experience onto selling IT sales. The customer doesn't care about lined or interlined. They don't care whether it's Webroot or Kaspersky. Actually, they probably don't want Kaspersky, but they don't care whether it's Webroot or Sentinel-1. They don't care about these things. They want to know it's going to work, it's going to keep them secure, and this is how much it costs.
Yeah, I love that approach, because for so many people watching this, it is in our nature as techies to try to want to get passionate about talking about features. And the reality is, as you've just really well highlighted with your anecdote about curtains there, it's the benefits that we're interested in as the buyer. We could not care less about the features. It's the benefits that it brings us. So I'm intrigued in terms of new MSPs. Let's say if you were starting from scratch, we both run MSP businesses. If you were starting from scratch, though, at what stage would you suggest that an MSP get a sales acceleration platform? And do you notice there I didn't call it a quoting platform?
Yes, I did. Correct. So I don't know really. I think really as early as possible, but you need to have a view of what your overall stack should look like, because I think the integration between these tools is probably the most important thing. If you don't have a seamless flow from that subscriber lead first contact on your website through to sending out the invoice, things are going to fall apart along the way. So, I mean, there's four kind of key tools along there. There's your marketing CRM, your sales acceleration or sales CRM like Zomentum. There's your PSA, and there's your accounting platform. And long term, it takes a certain level of maturity to reach that full stack. But so I think looking at the minimum features needed, in my view, you really need a PSA first. Like you need a PSA to run an MSP business, but as soon as you've got an MSP nailed down, a PSA nailed down, then I think really is the time to start looking at sales acceleration, because the marketing bit can come later. Within a platform like Zomentum, you can manage a good 50 or 100 opportunities on the kind of the boards and the views that are in there. It's only when you get past that point that you need to start bringing in the automation power behind marketing. A platform like HubSpot, which is probably going to cost you thousands of pounds a month, it's in a whole other league, but that's probably the thing I would add last. Start with the PSA, but then pretty soon after you've got the PSA, I'd bring sales acceleration in.
Okay, so you've got a professional service automation tool. Then you would bring, so your Autotask, your Atera, your ConnectWise, Harmony, whatever that might be. Then you would bring in a sales acceleration platform such as Zomentum to complement that. You talked about then as well having your accounting package and maybe a marketing package in there as well. So you're looking at least 4 tools that you've talked about in the stack there.
Yeah, and I think you build it from the end to the beginning. You need. I'm conscious I'm doing left. I don't know if I'm doing left to right, right to left, but we'll run with it. You need your accounting tool first. You've got to be able to submit your taxes. In the UK, your VAT returns. You don't stand a chance without an accounting tool. Once you've got your accounting tool, because you can also, you can add time to it. You can put line items on for your licenses and stuff. You can bill your clients. That's the most important thing. Can you get money out of your clients? Because there's no point doing anything else if you can't send them a bill. So, you've got to get your accounting in place first, then start managing those clients on a PSA, then start accelerating your sales, then start accelerating your marketing. If you try driving marketing, you're going to end up, we're talking to a couple of marketing agencies at the moment that specialize in MSPs. They've all got HubSpot and a PSA. And the marketing agency is saying, hey, our clients don't think we're generating any leads. We're trying to explain to them that actually we're generating loads of leads, but they can't close them. So, there's no point going into this lead generating mode until you've nailed closing them. And that's really where you need kind of the sales acceleration to fit in.
Yeah. So we're getting some questions coming in live. I will get to everybody's questions here. We'll put Ben on the spot. But David Carr on LinkedIn says, hey, Richard, thanks for hosting. He says, question for Ben, what is Zomentum's USP? Now, there's a sales question right there. People talk about USP. First of all, explain what a USP is to the audience. And secondly, in answer to David's question, how would you explain Zomentum's USP?
So first up, I would say I have nothing to do with sales at Zomentum. So I'm probably going to use all the wrong terminology and the marketing people will have my head on a platter later. USP, unique selling point. I think Zomentum's got a couple of USPs at the moment. One, nobody else is doing it. We really are the only people doing sales acceleration. There are quoting tools out there, and this is why we don't want to be put into that quoting box, because we do so much more around it. We are the only platform out there that helps you get from that prospect opportunity point all the way through a signed contract. I think there's various stats behind it. We have quite a lot of detailed aggregated stats on the way MSPs are using the platform. And typically, we see closing something like 4 times faster. So if the typical close speed, sales cycle, trying to find these old sales terms from my sales director, all I can hear now is time kills deals, time kills deals. If you can get that sales cycle down from 8 days to 2 days, that's the kind of improvement we can see with Zomentum. But also, bizarrely, a 600% increase in opportunity close value. Now, I don't really understand entirely how that works, but I think by leveraging options and a certain level of professionality to what you're presenting, if you can easily put on the quote, let's say you're selling an HP laptop, if you can quite easily pop on options for the monitor, the accessories, the 5-year next business day warranty. We all know there's no money in selling an HP EliteBook. There's a lot more money in selling an HP EliteBook with a 5-year next business day warranty. So by being able to put those options onto the quotes, we see this massive increase in the average margin that MSPs are closing.
Yeah, thank you for the question, David. Hope that answers it. Keep your questions coming in on whether you're joining us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Carrier, Pigeon, Smoke Signal. We will get there for all of them. On to the point there about adding options for people. My great friend Andy Parks, who runs iBit Solutions in the West Midlands, years ago, Andy taught me. I was going to call it a trick that sort of doesn't do it justice. He said when he sends his invoices out to clients and managed service invoices, Ben, he used to include all the services that the client didn't take, and he saw an upswing in clients then coming back and saying, "Oh, we didn't realize you did that. Can we have that as well?" So it's a really interesting tactic. If you make people aware of what they're not taking as well as what they're taking, it naturally just leads to upselling opportunities.
It does. And anecdotally, again, both my parents are retired solicitors. And one of the things that I think we often found an issue within the MSP was when we'd made recommendations and the client hadn't gone for it, and then there was an issue. Like, you offer them backup, they say no, don't want to spend £2 a month, no brainer. Don't want to spend £2 a month, and then there's some kind of data issue and there's no backup in place. Actually, totally aside from the sales, by putting these things on the quote as an option, it's very easy to then demonstrate to them later, 6 months, a year down the line, when they've forgotten, hey, look, we actually offered you this when you signed off on your main contract. And, right, it's not our fault you didn't take it.
Yeah. So
I'm always looking for the problem rather than the solution when it comes to these kind of things.
no, and that's why you are nailing it in the industry and building your reputation there. Right, I want to talk a little bit more about the Zomentum platform because we're getting lots of questions around that specifically. Before we do, though, I just want to delve a little bit more into your experience. So let me ask you the question around sales when you ran an MSP and what you've learned since looking back. How much time do you think an MSP should be dedicating to sales and the sales process?
All of your time, all of your spare time. Like, it's such a hyper competitive market. You need to be able to differentiate yourself, but you also need to be able to dedicate time to it. Again, as part of this 6 months of reflection I've had, looking back at how much time I spent working in the business rather than working on the business. I hate using these catch buzz phrases that all the nasty sales coaches like to use. You've got to work on your business, not in
How
your
dare you,
business.
Ben? I use that E-Myth term all the time.
I've got a few in mind. I don't want to sound like that because it's just not what I want to do. But you've got to listen to that, and I think working on your business, really, you've got to nail your technical processes, your SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and make sure that your team know what they're doing. But then every day, ask yourself, am I creating a job or am I building a business? And if the answer to that is ever that you're just creating a job, you need to shift focus. And I think the more time you free up by trusting your team to do what they do best, hiring the right people, working on the business, you can then really spend a lot of time driving sales. I didn't spend anywhere near enough time doing it. Like I said, I know a hell of a lot about the pain of trying to sell IT services, not necessarily the success of it.
Yeah. So you talked earlier on, we've got a question here to do with integrations. We've already talked today about, marketing platforms, PSA platforms, or accounting platforms. Can you talk in more specific terms about the automations that Zomentum already has built in to perhaps some of the major players in the market?
Sure. So do you mean automation or integration?
Sorry, integration. Beg your pardon.
Integration.
I've mixed up because I want to talk automation in a minute. Thank you for correcting me.
Sure.
Integration, because
that's right.
So many questions saying, do you integrate with this, that, and the other? Rather than name them all, I just wondered if you could run a few of them off.
Yeah, so the integrations are reasonably tight at the moment. I was just trying to log into my test tenant now. So in terms of PSAs, we've got Autotask ConnectWise, Synchro, and Kaseya BMS. We've had several really great conversations with the delightful Tim Bowers at Halo PSA, which is making some serious noise at the moment as well. And so we're in the design phase at the moment of an integration with Halo PSA. I'm really excited for that one. I think Halo has the opportunity to really knock some of the big boys off their perches now. So that's the PSAs. Hopefully we'll have Halo out maybe at the end of this quarter. I know our head product manager will have my head for that one, but definitely by the end of the year. He said, never promise timelines, Ben, never promise timelines. So first thing, I'm straight onto Tech Tribe, 2 weeks for that one, 3 weeks for that one.
It's just between you and us, Ben. It'll be fine. Nobody else will hear about that.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully by the end of this year, there'll be 5 PSAs, which the major ones. Then in terms of marketing automation, we've got Infusionsoft and HubSpot nailed. So, my dream stack, HubSpot into Zomentum, into Autotask, into QuickBooks Online. We've got that nailed for Infusionsoft. I think it's now Keep and HubSpot. We've handled the PSAs. There's then various integrations with distributors. So for the US, we've got obviously Ingram and Tech Data. We've got those pretty much across the world. In the UK, we're just about to release West Coast, and obviously I'm naturally pushing for lots more of the UK integrations because that's I know them better. We've got most of the big distributors in the US, and then the same for Australia and New Zealand. So we've got quite a lot of distributor integrations there. And where those really add the value is the fact that you can so quickly and easily, while creating a quote, you just do that quick search for Dell Latitude, and it will tell you current models, what the specs are, who's got what in stock, and how much it's going to cost you. And you can just put that straight onto a quote with all the specifications, a picture of the product, everything you need.
That makes sense.
And then one other category of integration, sorry, is the payment gateways, because obviously, give me my money. And so we've got Connect Booster integration, which has been around for a while, until I was about to say until a couple of days ago, but I think next week ACH payments are supposed to be added. So we've been doing credit cards on Connect Booster for quite a long time. We've just rolled that out to Canada as well. We're about to roll out ACH payments, which I think a lot of people out there are going to be quite excited by through Connect Booster. But then in the background, we're also working on a Stripe integration, which I think is the really obvious one. Like if I'd been in charge a year ago, I'd have said, let's push Connect Booster to second and do a quick and easy Stripe integration first. So yeah, again, pretty soon we're going to have Stripe out there for you to quickly and easily take credit card payments.
That makes sense. Thanks for listing those off. So we've got other people asking about Kaseya. Yes, I can see on the Zomentum website there's integration with Kaseya there as well. Somebody else has asked about Zapier or Zapier, depending on which way you pronounce it. Do you allow sort of hooks into Zapier there?
Yeah, absolutely. So you won't find it on the Zapier platform. You have to do that from the Zomentum side. Once you log into Zomentum, go to integrations. There's a button to add Zapier. It's a private connector. We're working on publishing it at the moment, but so yeah, we can hook into Zapier. Actually, I was spent like the last month, pretty much, it feels like, helping people build out various Zapier integrations into weird, wacky, wonderful tools. If there's MSPs out there, if you're using Zomentum, or if you're not using Zomentum, want to use Zomentum, if there's weird workflow stuff you want help doing, just reach out to me. My contact details are going to be at the end, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm here to evangelize for the MSP community. So if you want to see an integration with something in particular, doesn't matter how mad it sounds, reach out to me, talk to me about it, explain the use case. If we can do it immediately on Zapier, I'll happily give you a couple of days of my brain to try and work it out with you. But otherwise, I can also push for that proper native integration as well.
Very cool, Ben. We've got some other questions here. So Mike Proud across on Facebook asks, he says, can Zomentum create accounts in Autotask, or does it have to pull information from Autotask first? So that's a great question. I know Mike runs an MSP in the northeast of England, Autotask shop there.
A fellow northerner of yours.
Yeah, indeed.
So yeah, it's a full bi-directional sync with all the PSAs. So when you first sign up to Zomentum, if you're already using PSA, it will pull in all of your existing accounts. But also, if you think about my dream stack, let's keep going back to it, you don't want things that started at the subscriber phase. You don't want all the leads that never go anywhere polluting Zomentum. You don't want all the opportunities that never got signed off polluting Autotask or whichever PSA. You don't want all the clients or the opportunities that go a little bit further, but the dead ones that there's no billing for, polluting your accounting system. So at each point, ideally, all the data should be pushing in one direction. So yes, if you create an account in Zomentum, you create an opportunity in Zomentum. Once it hits that one stage and you're ready to move it onto the Autotask journey or the PSA journey, then yeah, absolutely, it creates things going that way, but it'll also pull stuff back when it's updated.
Very cool. And for everybody who's actually
answer.
Not at all, Ben. People are eating this up. Very grateful for the information you're sharing. And in answer to everybody's question, yes, I will make sure to share Ben's contact information at the end here, because I know, Ben, you've already won a number of raving fans here. In fact, Jason says, just looked at Zomentum, sign me up now. Talking of raving fans, the legend that is Andrew Moon, who does incredible LinkedIn for MSP content here. He says, can you ask, what were the CRM tools that you mentioned again? He said he heard Keep, Infusionsoft, HubSpot, Active Campaign. What else is there?
So we've got Infusionsoft Keep and HubSpot. I believe we've got a Salesforce integration, but it was built quite specifically for a large organization. I don't know if it's in production, but I can probably get it pulled into production if needed. Active Campaign and MailChimp, there's a couple of things out there. They're not natively integrated, but it would be quite easy to do something with Zapier. All you're really looking to do is once a contact reaches a certain stage, in Active Campaign or whatever, I'm sure you've got automations there. Once they reach, for example, sales qualified, then push them into Zomentum. That's really easy to do with Zapier. So reach out, happy to make it happen.
Fabulous. Well, get your questions in for Ben if you've got anything Zomentum specific, anything to do with the MSP industry. As you can see, Ben has got a lot of knowledge that he is willing to share. Question here, an interesting one because it's more to do with the MSP sales process as a whole. A question from Jason. He says, we don't get many sales inquiries. Why do we need a tool? Oh, and by the way, how do we get more inquiries? But to paraphrase that question, there's going to be a lot of people watching this saying, well, I'm not sure we want to invest in the tool because our marketing, our sales funnel isn't right at the moment. Will getting the tool help to fix the funnel?
It's not going to help you fix the funnel, but it's going to help you maximize a very thin funnel. If you've only got 2 or 3 or 4 leads that you're working on, you need to close like 100% of them. You need to close 200% of them. But you've got to be able to close them. And the easiest way to close them is going to be with the right tools.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm intrigued as well. Why did you've got so much experience, why did you choose Zomentum, who are a fairly new player in the market, to lend your experience to, instead of maybe, one of the bigger players out there? Because I know for a fact you weren't short of sort of offers to go and join other companies as well.
Yeah, there were quite a few opportunities floating around, I think. And actually, I'd say quite personally, I'd talk about this, to anyone who's currently running an MSP and thinking, like I did, what comes next? Is there a life for me after an MSP? MSP owners, ex-MSP owners don't come onto the market that often. Generally they're lifetime businesses for most people. So there is a lot of demand for ex-MSP owners, especially smart ones. Cut myself a break, but there is a lot of demand for ex-MSP owners. I think what really excited me about Zomentum is it's a problem I understand. Like on a really personal level, I understand the excruciating pain of trying to sell IT services to small businesses. And what I saw in Zomentum that first time I looked at it with Sam was a genuine solution to almost the entire problem, but then also all the gaps that I could just think, how has no one at Zomentum thought of this? And it became quite clear, because there were no actual MSPs at Zomentum at the time. It's obvious why these little things fell through the cracks, and I think that's why I could see so much opportunity to add value, because I understand the pain. I really understand the pain. And the other thing, the growth opportunity, Datto, rewind 10, 12 years, there were like 3 or 4 people. Chris Tim, for example, one of the really early Autotask people, talks about how wonderful Autotask was to work at back in the day, as it was scaling up towards 100 people. And there was so much going on, so much energy, the attitude was just always delight the customer at any cost. And what Zomentum is right now, we're up to we're what, 2.5 years old, 2018, up to about 75 people, adding a couple of people a week to the team. And that same mantra of just delight the customer at any cost. It doesn't matter, just delight, 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 delight. And I get to spend all day, every day delighting people, and pulling in the resources needed to delight people. And so I can see Zomentum being the next Datto scale, $1 billion flotation. And I think to be to be a part of that at an early stage and to really be able to add value at this early stage is really exciting.
Yeah, I love it. I can see why you're a part of the business there. And you mentioned Chris Tim. You remind me of Chris Tim. Had does have a lot of experience in the MSP industry. I've got Chris's book. We've had Chris on the podcast before. It's so great to see so many people coming out of running a managed service provider and lending their expertise to the vendors to make the managed service provider business better as a whole. So kudos to you. More of this type of thing. I mentioned earlier on automation. I didn't mean to. I was talking about integration, but I mentioned automation. Talk to me about automation, not just Zomentum, but automation as a whole across an MSP business. How can MSPs make their sales process flow more easily using automation?
If we come back to what I said earlier about giving an engineer the tools that make it impossible to sell, sorry, impossible not to sell.
Sure.
When all you want to do is solve problems, it's quite difficult to pull yourself back into that. Oh, I need to manage my pipeline. I need to update my opportunities. Who's waiting for an overdue follow up? Those kind of things. So there's a lot there that we can automate around following up opportunities and automating the pipeline so that you can, as an engineer, do what you enjoy, continue focusing on solving problems. It's some really basic automations that I think add an enormous amount of value is things like scheduling follow-up calls a couple of days after sending out a quote. Generally, from my experience, quotes and proposals, they either get signed off within 5 minutes or they get signed off like 2 weeks later. And there generally isn't much in the middle. So I think what happens in a lot of MSPs is if they don't get sign off in 5 minutes, they give up. And
Right.
they need that encouragement to keep going with the opportunity. I don't know what the figures are, but there's a lot of people that talk about the sheer number of touch points needed before you get that signed deal. And so if you can easily put in place the automation that's going to schedule a follow-up call 2 days after it was sent, 4 days after it was sent, an email 7 days after, just doing those little things that make managing your pipeline less laborious, I think that really helps.
Yeah. I've got to give a shout out for a fellow tech triber here. I know he's already a big fan, and that's Steve Dempsey across at Near Law. So to your earlier point about, upselling and options there, Steve says, while using Zomentum, I've got the ability to send a customer quote for one laptop, and my proposal goes from $1,000 to over $6,200 because the client has the ability to change the quantity of the items ordered. It also allows our clients to add or upsell items such as monitors, docking stations, wireless combos on their own. So I know Steve is a raving fan of your stuff, and he's a great contributor to the Tech Trove. So thank you, Steve. But another example there about giving the clients options that's going to increase the amount of sales that you make there.
Yeah. Coincidentally, that's pretty much exactly the 600% increase that we're seeing on average across those kinds of opportunities. $1,000, you put one laptop on there, but give them the opportunity to edit the quantity, and before you know it, they've signed off 6. Plus all those optional extras. Hi Steve. Thanks for that one. We've exchanged a couple of emails over the last few days, trying to work on a couple of things to help him out at the moment.
Yeah, very cool. So we're coming towards the end of our time here. So final call on questions for Ben here. Get your questions in on whatever channel you're using. We'll make sure to ask them. I've got a question though, Ben. You've not left the managed service world. Let me rephrase that. You've left a managed service provider behind, joined a vendor. What would you say is the biggest difference in perspective that you have of the managed service provider market now that you've seen both sides of the virtual fence, so to speak?
I think the thing that surprised me the most, and it may be unique to Zomentum, is the amount of reciprocal love from the vendor for the customer. Like when I was sitting in the customer shoes, that small MSP clearly not spending enough money with the vendor, did they really care? I think they did. And I think we probably were more than just a number to those vendors, even if we didn't necessarily feel like it. And what I'm seeing from the Zomentum side of the fence now is, despite these thousands of customers, I know probably half of them by now. And we genuinely have conversations internally about customers, how we can make their lives individually better. If we know, if a customer's reached out to our support team with a particular issue, even if we haven't been able to solve it there and then because we just don't have the feature, or whatever it is, we just can't fix it there and then. Believe me, that haunts us until it is actually resolved. That those comments, those suggestions, they get logged on our platform product board, which we use for roadmap management, and we can't unsee these issues until they get resolved. So I think what I would say to people who are still on the MSP side of the channel is your vendors probably do love you more than you realize. They just don't always make you feel like that. And I think what I'm really trying to do at Zomentum is make sure that we outwardly project how much we care about the customers. I don't ever want one of our customers to feel like I did to loads of our vendors back in the day. I want everyone to feel listened to. I want them to see what, that they matter to us, because yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, on a very personal level, it's still quite raw how badly we were treated by a lot of our vendors. And so seeing the other side of that's been quite powerful as well.
Yeah, I would say actually, and this is an open letter to the MSP industry, it is a tough time for vendors at the moment because they have lost the trust of a lot of MSPs and the wider market. And that is not picking on anybody in particular. So what you have just said, Ben, absolutely matches my experience of working as an MSP and doing consultancy work with the vendors. The vendors really do care about the MSPs, but perhaps don't show it as obviously as often as they need to. So shout out all to the vendors there. Appreciate what you do. Make sure to spread the love around there because we know you care. Make sure the MSPs realize that as well. Ben, you are
also,
a brilliant...
We're all human. We're all humans at the end of the day. When you slag off a vendor on the tech tribe or whatever, there's going to be people working at that vendor who work so hard to make your life better. And actually, it can be really quite hurtful seeing some of the criticism out there. I feel some of the pain for Kaseya, for example, at the moment. They're in the spotlight a lot. I feel the pain for their product managers and their cybersecurity, chief cybersecurity officers, stuff like that. Who's being ripped apart. I bet they work so hard. They really do work so hard to do the best, and it's just unfortunate circumstances.
Absolutely. Ben, you are an amazing advocate for the managed service provider industry. We're getting a lot of love for you in the chat here. So many people saying you rock. Awesome. Thanks for your time and everything. I'll leave you to go away and check out all the social channels with the individual contacts there. For lots of people asking for your contact details. So for anybody who wants to continue the conversation with you, be it Ben Spector, former MSP owner, be it Ben Spector, product manager at Zomentum, if they want to continue the conversation with you, how can they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn, Ben Spector. If you want to talk about Zomentum stuff, just email me, ben@zomentum.com. I'm sure when we're up to thousands of employees, it'll be ben dot something or other. But for the moment, I'm the only Ben at zomentum.com. Just email me. I can send you a calendar link. We can book some time. Always happy to talk to MSPs, understand what pain they're going through, and understand how we can help them solve that pain. And I think it looks like my contact details might be down there. Unfortunately, someone beat me to linkedin.com/Ben Spector. I think I'm Ben Spector 1. Yeah, it's
the top Ben Spector.
Let's go with
Ben,
that.
It has been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you. And I'll say up front here, we've run one of these TubbTalk Lives before. We ran it last year as an experiment. We're going to turn this into an ongoing series now. So if you've got value from today Please, I hope you will join us again in the future. But I want to give a massive public shout out, massive public thank you to Ben Spector of Zomentum for joining us today, for being our guinea pig in this whole endeavor here. Ben, I hope it's been fun for you.
And we all know about you and guinea pigs. If anyone's not sure, do your research. First person to email me with an explanation of Richard Tubb and guinea pigs gets a $10 Amazon gift card.
Wow, well, there you go. So lots of people are searching for Richard Tubb MSP guinea pig now. It's a real thing. Go and check it out. But thank you, everybody, for joining us for TubbTalk Live today. As I said, we are going to make this a regular series, and I want to give huge thanks to Richard Hall and Ben Harding of Fresh Productions for making all of this possible. It was a really interesting very first TubbTalk Live. You've got Ben Spector, Richard Tubb, and then behind the scenes, we've got Richard Hall and Ben Harding. So we've got two Richards, two Bens. Absolute chaos when we're trying to do the pre-roll for this one. But thank you, Richard and Ben, Fresh Productions, for making all this possible. Fresh do some amazing work hosting live and virtual events for the MSP industry. If you are a vendor, MSP, want some help with your live or virtual events, encourage you to get in touch with them. For TubbTalk Podcast subscribers, we'll see you on Sunday evening when a new episode drops. That's all the time we've got for TubbTalk Live this month, though. We'll look forward to seeing you next month with another guest. One final ask. If you've got a guest that you would like to see on TubbTalk Live, drop me an email, richard@tubblog.co.uk. We'll do our very best to get them on. Ben, Richard, me, everyone out there, thank you so much for your time today. That concludes today's episode. See you next month.